Welcome to the I Have No Idea What I'm Doing podcast, also known as the African Women in Biz podcast. This show helps African women at the start of their entrepreneurship journey reach their business, money, and lifestyle goals faster. I am so honored you have chosen to spend this time with me. Today is August 25th, 2020. So today we're talking about money, my favorite thing, money, 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 money. Yes, indeed, this is a Money Matters episode. As many of you know, most of this podcast is about sharing business advice. But once a month, I focus on personal finance and money because there's no point making all that money with your business if you don't know how to handle it for yourself. Today, the episode is about women and money and the sisterhood we can create around growing our money together. Okay, so last month, I put up a question on my IG stories. And if you're not following the podcast on IG, really quick, just grab your phone and hit up at African Women in Biz, B-I-Z. Give us a follow. And so like I was saying, I put up a question on my IG stories, and I think I mentioned it in a previous episode. The question I asked was whether or not you, as women, talk to your girlfriends, your female friends, your homegirls about money. By that, I mean, do you guys talk about how much you make? Do you guys talk about your savings goals? How much is in your account? Your investment plans? That kind of thing. And 69% of you said no, you don't talk to your friends about money. 21% of you said yes, you do talk to your friends about money. Now, are you surprised by that result? 69% to 21%. I wasn't, because frankly, all this did was confirm to me that we as women don't talk about money enough. And I found that interesting because as women, we'll have support groups about anything under the sun. We'll call our friends talking about the most intimate things, but we won't talk to each other about money. Here's a personal example. My best friend is a financial advisor. She's really good at her job. But we only had our first real conversation about money a few months ago. And I have known her for over a decade at this point in time. Isn't that crazy? Just a few months ago. And when I had my personal finance reawakening, which I talk about actually in episode 10, but yes, when I had my personal finance reawakening, I reached out to a lot of my friends to talk about money because I was really excited about what I was reading and finding out. And just as it is with anything else that you find out that's really dope and you want to share, I just wanted to get my friends hip to the game. I was like, guys, let's talk about money. This is crazy that we don't know this stuff. And I was sharing in the same way I would share a new show or a new hack or a new makeup product, sharing. And what I found more often than not when I reached out was that I was met with awkward pauses and stunted conversations. Honestly, I didn't judge them at all. We were at different places and that was okay. But I was saddened that this was a particular journey that I couldn't go on with certain friends, at least not at this particular time. And just because I was going through this quote unquote reawakening doesn't mean that it was for everyone. But overall, it made me think about women, sisterhood, and money. And ask myself, why do we shy away from money conversations so much as women? And you can guess what the answers to that question could be. But I read about it a little more just to figure out what were the common themes and then what were the common themes that I know apply to us as African women. And I came up with 4 things. Number 1, we shy away from money conversations because we don't want to feel judged or shamed by the money mistakes that we've made. The reason I think is that as women, we think other women are doing better with their money than we are. And I actually think it's really funny because unless you know what someone else is doing, you can't tell whether or not they're doing better than you. The third thing is that for some of us, money is not a topic we grew up talking about. So for me, money was not talked about openly in my household. And so I feel very awkward bringing it up. It doesn't feel natural or second nature. For many of us as African women, this could be new to you. And then lastly, we think it's personal talking about money. But what's crazy to me is that as women, we will talk about everything that one might consider personal. We will talk about our period. We'll talk about things our bodies are doing. We'll be talking about sex and things that we have done or haven't done with our partners. Like, we'll talk about so many things that might go under the personal category. But money, for whatever reason, also is one we wouldn't touch. And I know that all these four things, the fact that we don't want to feel judged or shamed, the fact that we think other women are doing better, the fact that we're not comfortable talking about money, the fact that we think it's personal, all those four things, maybe it's something you struggle with as well. But I can say that having stepped over a lot of these things and seen the other side, these are just mental barriers that you can overcome. It's just the willingness to do that. So one of my goals is to talk more about money with women. That's why I'm doing it here on the podcast. I'm doing it more with friends. But I also have, and I intentionally did this, I have a group, I have a mastermind specifically around growing our personal finance literacy and acumen, because I knew that was a weakness of mine. And it's a group with 2 other women. And as a group, we have challenged ourselves to read, study, and invest more in our financial education. These are personal journeys. We're doing them, of course, separately, but together we're supporting each other as a group. And we've been doing it for about 2 months, and already the gains have been amazing. In those 2 months, we've shared tips and tricks. We share wins and growth. We are all reading different books, so we share insights from them. We also talk about our roadblocks and help each other overcome them. All this work that we're doing ultimately leads to making more money, because that's the thing about financial literacy, and that's the thing about investing and learning more about money and finance, is eventually it pays off. And when I say it pays off, cha-ching, it pays off. And so I urge you to do the same. I urge you to actually go out there and create a group of women that is focused on growing your financial literacy. Now, it'll take a second to find this group, because it has to be a group of women willing to invest the time in growing and learning and supporting each other. It takes time and it's an investment, and not everyone is there. So it might take a while to find these women. And just know it's not always your closest friends or family members who will do it. So you might have to move outside your circle to find this group of women. I know for me, it took a couple of weeks, actually maybe like 7 weeks, give or take, to find the women that I ended up working with. And once we found each other, we agreed to create a safe space for learning, making mistakes, and growing. And once that was in place, we were off to the races. So I invite you to find 3 other women that I'm going to call your quote unquote money friends. And with these 3 women, go ahead and become a group and invest in growing your financial literacy and ultimately your pockets. This is not an investment group. I want to be clear about that. You're not coming together to invest or anything like that. It is strictly a support group around learning and growing your financial literacy. Go ahead and do that. And if you decide to move ahead and create a Money Friends group, let me know. I want to hear about this. See where this goes, guys, because it's a really great journey. Now, with each Money Matters episode, I recommend a book of the month, which is basically a personal finance book to work through. And so in July, the book of the month was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And here's my very quick review. I struggled reading it because it was written in the 1930s. And the publishers decided to keep much of the language and the examples and ideas of that time to maintain the authenticity of the author's message. So it feels dated. And there were times that I just wanted to throw the book across the room because it just through the language, I couldn't receive the message. The fact that I couldn't overcome that particular barrier, I wouldn't necessarily recommend the book. But my two biggest takeaways from the book, because I did finish it, were number one, to focus on goal setting and visualization. In the book, Napoleon Hill really insists on writing down your goals and then also visualizing them every single day. And in doing so, this taps into your conscious thoughts and translates them also into your subconscious thoughts. I thought that was really good advice, to really be intimate with your goals was ultimately what he was saying. And the second thing was create a mastermind. If you've ever heard of the word mastermind, Napoleon Hill, this author, is the man who created the word actually. And if you don't know what it is, a mastermind is basically a group of peers who regularly meet in order to give each other guidance, advice, and support. I think I even used the word mastermind a couple of times in this episode already. A good example of a mastermind is my Money Friends group. That is a mastermind group focused on financial literacy. It's no secret that mastermind groups are essential in operating successful businesses and growing your business entity and achieving your goals and dreams. So his push for creating masterminds, I thought was really, really good advice. So that was July's book. And then due to bad planning on my part, I'm recording this August Money Matters episode late. And so this month's book recommendation is also late. It essentially should be coming at the beginning of the month. But if you follow me on IG or in the Facebook group, you should be aware of the book that we're reading this month. But even if it's the end of the month, I still urge you to check out the book because it is a gem. And the book for August is The Richest Man in Babylon, which is another personal finance classic. I am sure you've heard of this book. It's also one of those oldies but goodies. It was written in 1926 by George S. Clason, and it's a book that dispenses advice, financial advice specifically, through a collection of parables set 4,000 years ago in ancient Babylon. Now, I know that already sounds like, what, Paula? What is this book? But it's just really well done, and he gives advice through different stories and parables, which I really connected with. So go ahead and grab that book. And that's it in terms of the Money Matters aspect of this episode. I just wanted to add that some of you have gotten back to me about joining the podcast training I'm putting together. If you don't know, in last week's episode, I put together a call for women interested in learning to podcast for their businesses as a potential marketing tool, or podcast for pleasure. I'm open to that as well. And I was just checking to see if there'd be interest in something like that. And some of you have gotten back to me already. If you are interested and still haven't reached out to me, please do this week, because I'm starting to really pull things together. And you can reach out to me through email, which you'll find in the show notes, or like through Instagram, or, the different ways one can connect with me. So we'll do that. And lastly, if you liked this episode, if you liked what you heard, if you want to send this to a friend, a future money friend, please go ahead and do that. And go ahead and subscribe as well while you're doing it. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you next week. So be it. See to it.